are we talking about this morning?
We're going to talk about routines, because you touched on it with that last segment that we got to 20 minutes ago. And yeah, I'm loving routines and habits at the moment. And I want to ask you if you think there is a difference between a routine and a habit.
I see a habit almost, so just to listeners out there, I was put on the spot with that. I'm not too sure exactly how to explain it, but I do see a habit as something that is hard to control. So something along the lines of it naturally forms and forms in your brain, where basically it's hard to control. So you could say you have a habit of biting your fingernails. You don't say, oh, I've got a routine where I bite my fingernails. I see a routine as something that's generally got a positive term to it, and a habit's normally negative. So a routine can be something that you force yourself to do, which hopefully becomes a habit, but I think the routine comes before the habit.
So you'd say that a habit is essentially something which is automatic?
In a way. So I would say that I have a habit of oversleeping my alarm, or a habit of sleeping too long in the mornings, whereas when I start doing some proper work, or when I have to get into the studio on a Sunday morning, it is a routine. So I follow a routine, but I wouldn't say I've got a habit of getting up early on Sunday. I would say, well, the habit is sleeping in, but I have a routine to try and stop that habit.
Yeah, so if you were to say that it was automatic, you would be correct. And it sounds to me like you're saying that a routine leads to a habit.
Yeah, in a way. I think the routine starts before the habit. So basically, obviously I said before, habits for me have negative connotations. But yeah, I mean, that's what I think. I think you have to start the routine first and have it in your head before it can become a habit.
Well, essentially, so yes, a lot of habits are negative, and a lot of people recognize their negative habits, but they can be positive as well. So if we were to separate the two, a routine is something which is more about frequency and how frequently you do a behavior or an action, and a habit is more about automaticity, and so how automatic it is. So if you're trying to create a new habit, you essentially need to create a routine first. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, Jacob.
Yeah, so for example, something which you do more regular would be a routine and be a stronger routine. So for example, brushing your teeth every morning would be something which is quite routine. Whereas something that you don't do very regularly, just say for example, apply for a job, hopefully you're not doing that too often, then that's something which is not really a routine. And then on the other hand, you've got habits which are more about automaticity, so they're more automatic. And you've got things which are not really automatic. So for example, someone who wants to start exercising, exercise is not a habit for them. And then you've got habits which are more automatic, which you do more easily. And so that's where people are trying to get to in terms of their health and fitness, essentially.
Jacob, you mentioned automaticity, and I'd just like to give you a bit of forewarning. I don't deal in syllables more than 3 or 4, so that's why I probably don't know the difference between a habit and a routine, but I'll put you on the spot here as well. When does a habit become an addiction? So what is the difference? And I know it's obvious when you say it, what's the difference between a habit and addiction? It's fairly obvious on the surface, but purely speaking about definitions here, how would you define an addiction compared to a habit?
We're really getting into punishment and reward here, and essentially neurotransmitters and what's going on neurally inside the body. And something which is a habit, is a addiction, typically has a very strong relationship with neurotransmitters such as dopamine and serotonin and those type of feel-good chemicals which are released in your body. And so, and you can't stop it. So you are physically, late night last night, you are physically fighting against your own physiology in order to to either do or not do a behavior.
Jacob, you portray yourself as Mr. Perfect, but do you have any habits that you would like to break? So what are your worst habits? Personally.
My worst habits. Geez, you put me on the spot there. I don't really have anything that I do wrong.
Yeah.
Biting my nails, of course. I picked the edge of my nail. That's all those NLP people out there will be picking me on that. habits. Actually, you know what I want to do more of? Say thank you for dinner. This is something that's going to possibly portray me in a bad light here, but Holly, my fiance, always, well, most of the time, 99% of the time, cooks in our house, and she cooks amazing. When we first met, I said she likes to cook and I like to eat, so we're a perfect match. And yeah, I think she probably regretted that after a couple of years, but sometimes, you know, like when she's had a hard day and she's been working with, you know, our kids and getting them organised at night time, and I come home from training and, you know, waltz in the door, and she's had to deal with 4 little kids, bath them, feed them, and, you know, get them ready for bed. And my dinner's waiting there, sitting on the bench, steaming, nice and warm, ready to eat, and then I eat it and I don't say thank you. She gets a little bit upset, and so saying thank you more often is probably a habit that I need to create. But in order for me to do that, I would need to make the routine, and this is where I touched on it last week in terms of how you create that. And so if we look at that little triangle shape where we've got a trigger, then you've got an action, and then you've got a reward, and that trigger is the food. So when you see food on the table, say thank you. Inside the action, we can break that up into the 4 E's, and we talked about the E's, the environment, the efficiency, and the effectiveness of how you're going to create that. So it might be that the environment, I put something up on the wall saying, you know, thank you, a little post-it note saying thank you everywhere. Or it might be something which is easy. So I touched on that again last week, where we talked about creating habits where something that you already do, build upon that.
But you'd have to keep that from your wife, of course. I mean, it doesn't seem as genuine when you've got notes all around the house saying, say thank you, please remember to say thank you.
Yeah, of course. You know, maybe I'd hide it in the car or something. But it's about putting those triggers up in different places. But yeah, at the end of the day, really, is it that hard to say thank you? So no, Jacob, I think you just need to get over it, and you just need to recognize how good you've got it.
Yeah, well, I mean, since you asked, my habit that I do very poorly is forgetting people's names as soon as you meet them. Like, literally, it could be 3 seconds after I meet someone and they've said their name, and I would forget it. And it's really, really poor. It's a really poor character trait, or habit, if you will, because it makes you seem so arrogant, and it makes you seem like you don't care about the people you're meeting. But it isn't like that. So I wouldn't say it's social anxiety or anything like that, but when I'm meeting someone new, you try and make a good impression, and I'm always focused about trying to get that nice firm handshake and thinking about what I'm going to say to them and introducing myself and that sort of stuff, where you forget it straight away. And growing up around football clubs and new jobs and meeting different people, it's just terrible. But do you have any advice for me moving forward?
Well, you're touching, so you're definitely on habits and routines, but you're also now touching on learning and changing something from working memory into short-term memory into long-term memory. And so, you know, everyone, most people have heard the thing where when you meet someone, use their name 3 times and, you know, before you leave them or in the next minute, whatever. And that's just a way of trying to learn something. So you're not you're at the very beginnings of habit formation, but you're actually more focusing on how to learn something. So you're trying to learn that person's name. And so if you can relate something to that, so when they say a name, think of someone who you know, or there might be something that stands out to you about that person. They might be wearing this Hawaiian shirt, which, you know, and their name might be Harry, and so Harry the Hawaiian or something, I don't know, you know,
Richard
something,
the Ranger,
yeah,
something like that.
Something that you can use to help stick that. If it's something that's visual, then it's so much easier to remember it.